Well, hi there. Welcome. My name is Alexis. This is Whiteboard Mastery. And one of the questions that I get asked most about whiteboarding and, as I often say, solving problems and generating ideas is how do you start? Right? So often people don't even know where to start. And I wanted to share with you today two ways to think about how to get started and sort of the two mindsets that precede any technique that I'm going to teach you. So in later videos, I'll show you very specific techniques where I tell you do this and then do that. But today I wanted to share with you a little bit the mindsets that you can use and check in with yourself to figure out which technique you should be using in the first place. And this whole thing came about the other day. I was walking with a really good friend of mine, with Chris. We're walking along the canal here in Berlin, and I absolutely love talking with him. He's a great guy, super intelligent. And at the end of the conversation, I noticed that um, uh, I really enjoyed myself, and I asked myself what just happened, right? We spoke for an hour, we're walking, and I realized that what made this conversation so fluid was that we both very synchronously would either have speak in terms of adding more ideas to whatever we're talking about, or sort of coming to a conclusion. So in one half of the conversation, we would be sort of like brainstorming, and it would be a lot of adding. Hey, you said this. This reminds me of that, and what do you think about that? And just sort of opening up the conversation and creating more options. And at some point, I thought this was quite neat. Naturally, we would sort of change the type of conversation to, okay, now we have all these options. Which one is the most interesting, or which one matters the most? And this got me thinking and realizing that I think the same thing applies to whiteboarding. So I think in a whiteboarding session, in fact, looking back on my time, is that I use the whiteboard very often either to open up a space, to understand a space better, or to take what's out there, all the options that I have, and come up with a decision on the one thing that I should be focusing on. And I have created two graphics for you to visualize this a little bit. So look at this here I have it on my screen. The first one that I want to explain or give you the idea of is the idea of divergent thinking. So that means you see this guy here standing. He has a question. He has a topic on his mind. Maybe it's a problem from work. Maybe it's an idea that he wants to refine. And here on the left, you see this little ball with a question mark in it. And there are many techniques where you take that initial sort of thing that you want to explore, and gradually you open up. You see it here to the side. You open up more and more options. For example, brainstorming is a classic way to say, okay, we want to find new ideas around the topic of, I don't know, cat food, and the more is better. You want to throw out ideas. You don't want to take away any ideas. You have an open question basically that you add more and more, and you get more and more finer and finer, as you can see on the graphic. You start, with two bigger ideas, and then each of those has like variants to them, so it gets smaller and more detailed as you go along. And what you wind up with divergent thinking, and the value of it is that here to the right you see the big exclamation mark, is that you have generated more options than you had before. This may mean that you understand something better. That means that you have more ideas. And if anything, more in divergent thinking, more is better. So quantity is great. And this is exactly what happened with Chris and I for one part of the conversation, where we're just adding to each other's. So we weren't completing each other's sentences, but we're adding to each other's ideas. And at the end, I felt like we had covered a lot of ground, and it felt great, and it was super interesting. So at some point, if you're whiteboarding, or if you're just working on yourself, or at professionally, there may be a point where you have to switch your thinking and you have to switch your methodologies. And this is where you converge, where you narrow your options again. So you see the guy on the left, the question that he currently has is, I have so many options to choose from of, let's maybe say, things I could do to improve my business, and I'm not sure which one of those is the one that I should be focusing on, which is the most important. So convergent thinking means you're narrowing, you're taking a lot of options and you're narrowing it down, in best case, to one. As you can see here, to the right, you sort of gradually, with processes, with thinking tools, as I call them, you wind up with usually one thing and one thing only. And I want to leave you with this idea. First of all, that generally there's two approaches to thinking. There are many more, but I found that these are recurrent over and over in my whiteboarding. And the next time you sit down and want to think out loud on paper or on a whiteboard, as I have one here, ask yourself before you even start, am I trying to generate more ideas or more options? Is this a divergent session? Or is it a convergent session where you take a lot of options and you're trying to narrow down to something that has high priority? And try it out. I'm super excited to hear how that works for you. I'd love to hear. So please feel free to comment in the comment below. And yeah, more to come soon, to be continued. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Alexis. This is Whiteboard Mastery. Have a great day. Goodbye.